The courtroom hummed with a soft, artificial breeze that carried the faint scent of recycled air, a standard atmosphere aboard the New Horizon orbital judicial complex. Massive, transparent windows revealed the endless starscape behind, a backdrop of infinite darkness punctuated by distant pinpricks of light and the gleaming curves of nearby space stations. Judge David Kim adjusted his digital tablet, his fingers sliding across the holographic interface with practiced efficiency. He was a man who prided himself on precision, on maintaining the delicate balance of law across human-controlled territories. Today's hearing seemed unremarkable. Another routine administrative proceeding that would take mere minutes. Arya Park stood perfectly still, her navy suit crisp and tailored, a subtle contrast against the metallic grey walls of the courtroom. Unlike most visitors, she showed no signs of nervousness. Her eyes, deep and intelligent, scanned the room with a calm that suggested she'd been in far more challenging situations. The courtroom itself was a marvel of human engineering. Adaptive. Surfaces that could shift color and texture. Holographic displays that materialized evidence with crystal clarity, and acoustic systems that could isolate individual conversations in a crowded space. It was a testament to humanity's technological progress, a blend of functionality and aesthetic design that spoke volumes about their civilization's advancement. A small drone hovered near the judge's bench, its multiple sensors capturing every minute detail of the proceedings. These judicial drones were standard equipment, programmed to record, analyze, and provide instant cross-referencing of legal precedents. Behind Arya, a group of young legal trainees watched with quiet anticipation, their augmented reality glasses providing real-time annotations and background information. Case number JC7642, the court's AI announced in a neutral tone, Administrative Violation Sector 9 Regulatory Compliance. The voice was deliberately modulated, neither male nor female, designed to be absolutely impartial. David noticed something unusual about Arya. While most defendants showed subtle signs of stress, micro-movements, slight perspiration detected by the room's environmental sensors, she remained completely composed. Her hands were clasped loosely in front of her, no tension in her shoulders, no rapid blinking or nervous gestures. The charge seemed minor, a technical non-compliance in a recent interstellar trading documentation, routine paperwork that most would consider a simple administrative error, but something in Arya's demeanor suggested this was anything but a typical hearing. Outside the courtroom's windows, a massive cargo spacecraft drifted slowly past. Its massive hull bore the scars of long-distance travel, carbon scoring, micro-meteorite impacts, the badges of interstellar journeys that spoke of humanity's relentless exploration. The ship carried supplies between colonial territories, a lifeline connecting distant human settlements. David's own family history was one of migration and adaptation. His grandparents had been among the first wave of settlers who transformed harsh planetary environments into thriving colonies. That pioneering spirit was etched into humanity's collective DNA, a drive to explore, to challenge, to overcome. The room's environmental controls maintained a perfect 22 degrees Celsius, with humidity adjusted for optimal human comfort. Such precision was standard now, a far cry from the early days of space exploration, when survival itself was a constant challenge. Arya's digital profile began to populate on the holographic displays, educational credentials, professional achievements, a comprehensive life record compressed into glowing lines of data. But David hadn't yet looked closely, assuming it was another standard bureaucratic file. A soft chime indicated the formal start of proceedings. The room's acoustics adjusted, creating a perfect audio environment where every word would be crystal clear. "Ms. Park," David began, his voice carrying the practiced tone of judicial authority, "you are charged with administrative non-compliance in trading documentation for Colonial Sector 9. How do you respond?" The stage was set. What seemed the harsh glow of holographic displays illuminated David Kim's stern features as he prepared to deliver his judgment. His fingers danced across the digital interface, pulling up the technical violation documentation with practiced efficiency. "Ms. Park," he announced, his voice resonating through the advanced acoustic chambers of the orbital courtroom, The documentation discrepancy in your interstellar trade manifest represents a clear violation of Colonial Trading Regulation 4 Delta 9. The charge sounded significant, but the underlying bureaucratic language masked its true complexity. Behind him, a massive holographic display flickered to life, showing intricate trade routes that crisscrossed human-controlled space. Colorful, lines represented shipping lanes, each intersection a potential point of legal complexity. The visualization was beautiful, a digital representation of humanity's expanding reach across the galaxy. Aria remained perfectly composed, her posture suggesting she'd heard far more serious accusations in her career. The young legal trainees, seated in the observation area, leaned forward, sensing something unusual was about to unfold. The violation seemed simple on the surface, a minor discrepancy in a cargo manifest between the Jupiter mining colonies and the Proxima Centauri agricultural settlements. Most defendants would have paid the fine and moved on, a simple cost of doing business in humanity's expanding interstellar economy. A maintenance drone buzzed softly overhead, its multiple sensors scanning the courtroom. These autonomous units were everywhere now, part surveillance, part administrative support, constantly processing information that kept human civilization running smoothly. Outside the courtroom's massive windows, a deep space rescue vessel slowly passed by. Its hull bore the scars of countless missions, rescue operations in asteroid fields, emergency responses to colonial distress signals, the silent heroes of human expansion. The ship reminded everyone of the real stakes behind these seemingly mundane legal proceedings. David continued reading the charges, his finger tracing digital lines of text. "The fine will be assessed at 5,000 universal credits," he declared, his tone leaving no room for argument. "This represents a standard penalty for documentation irregularities in interstellar trade." The amount was significant, enough to cripple a small trading operation, but mere pocket change for larger corporate entities. It was a calculated approach, designed to maintain strict regulatory compliance across human-controlled territories. Aria's eyes never wavered. A subtle smile played at the corner of her mouth, not defiance but something closer to anticipation. The young legal trainees exchanged curious glances, sensing something was different about this particular defendant. The courtroom's environmental systems hummed softly. Adaptive lighting adjusted to create the perfect cognitive environment, a carefully designed space meant to support clear thinking and judicial precision. Every aspect of the room was engineered for optimal human performance. Around the courtroom's perimeter, holographic displays showed real-time legal precedents, cross-referenced information, and statistical analyses related to the current proceedings. It was a testament to human technological advancement. Instant access to centuries of legal knowledge at the touch of a button. David completed his formal declaration, expecting the typical response. Most defendants would accept the ruling, pay the fine, and move on with their lives. The bureaucratic machine would continue its relentless march of regulation and control. But Aria Park was not most defendants. As the final words of the judgment echoed through the courtroom, she took a single step forward. Her movement was deliberate, calculated, like a chess master preparing to reveal an unexpected strategy. The young legal trainees held their breath. The maintenance drones paused their routine scanning. Even the environmental systems seemed to grow quiet, waiting. Something was about to change. End of Part 2. The moment Aria Park stepped forward, the entire courtroom seemed to shift. Her movement was deliberate, each step calculated with a precision that suggested years of professional training. The holographic displays around her flickered subtly, as if the very technology sensed something significant was about to happen. "Judge Kim," she began, her voice clear and measured, "the documentation you've referenced contains a critical misunderstanding. That goes far beyond a simple administrative error." Her words carried the weight of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. The young legal trainees leaned forward, their augmented reality glasses capturing every nuance of the interaction. The maintenance drones adjusted their positioning, sensors focused intently on the unfolding scene. Outside the courtroom windows, a massive deep space communication relay station rotated slowly, its massive antenna arrays capturing and redirecting signals from across human-controlled territories. It was a silent witness to the drama unfolding inside. Arya's digital profile began to expand on the holographic displays. Credentials that had previously been a blur of text now transformed into a comprehensive record of extraordinary achievement. Multiple doctorate degrees from the most prestigious interstellar universities, diplomatic mission reports, critical, legal interventions that had prevented potential conflicts between human colonies and emerging alien civilizations. David Kim's confident expression began to fracture. The lines of text he had so confidently presented now seemed to twist and recontextualize themselves. What had appeared to be a simple trade violation was revealing itself as something far more complex. The discrepancy in the cargo manifest, Arya continued, is actually a deliberately constructed legal mechanism designed to test the current interstellar trade regulations. Her fingers touched a holographic interface, bringing up a series of complex legal diagrams that looked more like intricate mathematical equations than standard documentation. The young legal trainees gasped. One of them whispered, "That's the Proxima Protocol," a reference to a legendary legal strategy that few truly understood. Surrounding the courtroom, holographic displays began to dance with information. Historical trade routes, legal precedents, diplomatic communications. A vast web of interconnected data that told a story far more nuanced than a simple fine. A maintenance drone moved closer, its multiple sensors working overtime to process the unprecedented level of information being presented. The artificial intelligence that governed the courtroom systems was working at maximum capacity, cross-referencing and analyzing every single detail. Arya explained how the seemingly minor documentation error was actually a carefully constructed test of the current interstellar trade regulations. It was a proactive approach to identifying potential legal vulnerabilities in humanity's expanding economic framework. David felt the ground shifting beneath him. This was no ordinary defendant. This was a strategic legal mind, working at a level he had never encountered before. The massive windows of the courtroom continued to show the vastness of space, a reminder of the enormous challenges humanity faced in its ongoing expansion. Distant spacecraft moved like specks of light against the infinite darkness, each representing countless human stories of exploration and challenge. Furthermore, Arya said, her voice cutting through the tension, the specific methodology used in this documentation test has already been approved by the Interstellar Judicial Commission's Advanced Research Division. She projected a series of digital authorizations that glowed with official validation. The young legal trainees were now completely transfixed. This was more than a hearing. This was a masterclass in interstellar legal strategy. David Kim realized he was no longer in control of the proceedings. What had begun as a routine judgment was transforming into something entirely unexpected. The fine he had so confidently assessed now seemed laughably insignificant. The maintenance drones continued their silent observation. The holographic displays continued their intricate dance of information. And Arya Park stood at the center of it all, calm, confident, and in complete control. Something fundamental was about to change. End of Part 3. The courtroom's atmosphere transformed, becoming a living, breathing ecosystem of information and potential. Arya Park's revelation had done more than challenge a simple administrative fine. It had exposed the intricate machinery of interstellar diplomacy. Holographic displays began reconstructing complex diplomatic scenarios from the past decade. Conflict zones where humanity had narrowly avoided massive interstellar confrontations flickered into view. Ghost-like projections of potential war zones that never materialized, thanks to strategic legal interventions. A massive holographic representation of the Andromeda diplomatic corridor materialized, showing the delicate web of relationships between human colonies and 3 distinct alien civilizations. Each connection represented years of careful negotiation, legal maneuvering, and strategic communication. The documentation you initially considered a violation, Arya explained, her voice cutting through the visual complexity, is actually part of a broader strategy to prevent potential conflicts with the Quantum Collective. The name sent a subtle ripple through the courtroom. The Quantum Collective was not a typical alien civilization. They were a hyper-intelligent collective consciousness that communicated through complex mathematical patterns and legal frameworks. Traditional diplomatic approaches had consistently failed with them, making each interaction a potential trigger for catastrophic misunderstandings. Outside the courtroom's windows, a massive research vessel from the Interstellar Diplomatic Corps slowly drifted past. Its hull bore intricate sensor arrays designed to detect the most minute communication nuances between different species. This was humanity's front line of peaceful expansion, not weapons, but understanding. David Kim's perspective was rapidly transforming. What he had seen as a simple administrative hearing was now revealing itself as a critical piece of a much larger galactic puzzle. The young legal trainees watched in near-religious silence, their augmented reality glasses capturing every microscopic detail. Area projected a series of complex mathematical sequences, the quantum collective's primary communication method. To an untrained eye, they looked like random numerical patterns, but for those who understood, they were sophisticated diplomatic communications that could prevent or trigger interstellar conflicts. Each seemingly minor documentation variation, she continued, contains embedded communication protocols that help maintain stable relationships with non-human intelligence systems. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces, revealing layers of complexity that defied traditional understanding. The maintenance drones around the courtroom adjusted their positioning, their advanced sensors working overtime to process the unprecedented information flow. It was as if the entire technological ecosystem was learning, adapting in real time to the unfolding revelation. Diplomatic complexity wasn't just about avoiding conflicts, it was about creating intricate systems of mutual understanding. Humanity had evolved from territorial conflicts to a sophisticated network of interspecies communication, with legal frameworks serving as the primary diplomatic language. A subtle alarm triggered in the background, not a warning, but a notification. The Interstellar Judicial Commission was now actively monitoring the proceedings, recognizing the potential significance of what was happening in this small orbital courtroom. The holographic displays began showing parallel scenarios, potential conflict timelines that had been avoided through similar strategic legal interventions. Entire planetary populations that might have been destroyed were now engaged in peaceful cultural exchanges. David Kim realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't just a legal hearing. This was humanity's diplomatic evolution happening in real time, with Arya Park as its central architect. The young legal trainees were no longer just observers. They were witnesses to a moment that would likely be studied in diplomatic academies for generations. Their augmented reality interfaces were capturing every microscopic detail, creating a comprehensive record of this unprecedented interaction. Outside, the vast emptiness of space continued its silent watch. Distant spacecraft moved like slow-moving stars, each representing humanity's ongoing journey of exploration and understanding. Arya Park stood at the center of this complex universe, calm and absolutely in control. What had begun as a simple fine was now a masterclass in interstellar diplomacy, legal strategy, and humanity's potential for peaceful expansion. The universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting. End of Part 4. The silence that followed was more profound than any spoken word. David Kim felt the weight of his previous assumptions crumbling, replaced by a dawning understanding that would fundamentally change his perception of justice, diplomacy, and human potential. Arya Park stood not just as a defendant, but as a living embodiment of humanity's most sophisticated evolutionary mechanism, intellectual adaptability. The courtroom's environmental systems seemed to pulse with a subtle energy, as if the very technology recognized the significance of this moment. Outside the massive windows, a quantum communication relay station rotated slowly, its intricate antenna arrays capturing the most delicate signals from across the known universe. It was a silent witness to humanity's ongoing transformation. "Your initial judgment," Arya said softly, "represents more than a simple administrative error. It's a reflection of the systemic limitations we must continuously challenge." Her words were not accusatory, but educational, a nuanced approach. That demonstrated why she was considered a master of interstellar diplomacy. The young legal trainees watched with a mixture of awe and inspiration. Their augmented reality interfaces captured every microscopic detail, creating a real-time learning experience that would be studied in diplomatic academies across human-controlled territories. Holographic displays began reconstructing David's professional history, moments of potential bias, unconscious assumptions, bureaucratic rigidity, not as condemnation, but as a pathway to understanding and growth. It was a compassionate deconstruction of institutional thinking. Maintenance drones adjusted their positioning, their advanced sensors capturing the psychological transformation happening in real time. This was more than a legal proceeding. This was an evolutionary moment for human consciousness. The true measure of our civilization, Arya continued, isn't in our technological achievements, but in our capacity to recognize and overcome our own limitations. Each word was carefully chosen, a surgical precision that cut through institutional barriers. David felt something profound shifting inside him. Years of bureaucratic conditioning were being gently but firmly dismantled. The fine he had so confidently assessed now seemed laughably insignificant compared to the broader understanding unfolding before him. A subtle notification flickered. Across the courtroom systems, the Interstellar Judicial Commission was actively monitoring the proceedings, recognizing this as a potential landmark moment in human diplomatic evolution. The massive communication arrays outside continued their silent rotation, capturing signals from civilizations humanity was still learning to understand. Each rotation represented countless stories of communication, conflict, and potential resolution. Arya's digital profile continued to expand, revealing a history of diplomatic interventions that had prevented potential conflicts, bridged seemingly impossible cultural differences, and demonstrated the extraordinary potential of human intellect. The young legal trainees were no longer passive observers. Their augmented interfaces were capturing a masterclass in diplomatic strategy, institutional transformation, and the most sophisticated expression of human potential. "This isn't about winning or losing," Arya explained, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who had navigated some of the most complex diplomatic challenges in human history. "This is about continuous learning, about recognizing that our systems must evolve as quickly as our understanding." David Kim's perception of justice was being fundamentally reconstructed. What had begun as a routine administrative hearing was revealing itself as a profound lesson in human potential, institutional adaptation, and the true meaning of progress. The show's maintenance drones seemed to hover with a sense of anticipation. The holographic displays continued their intricate dance of information, revealing layers of complexity that defied traditional understanding. Outside, distant spacecraft moved like slow-moving stars against the infinite darkness of space. Each represented a human story of exploration, challenge, and the relentless pursuit of understanding. Arya Park stood at the center of this complex universe, calm, compassionate, absolutely in control. She was not just challenging a system, she was demonstrating a more sophisticated approach to human interaction. The fine was rescinded, but something far more significant had been awarded, a moment of collective human growth. The universe seemed to pause, recognizing the profound transformation that had just occurred. End of Part 5. Like a routine hearing was about to become anything but ordinary. End of Part 1.